Hey, what's up? This is Brandon Simmons from BrandonSimmons.biz, and this is my weekly column called Black Quarterback. And I'm here to give you my playoff picks live and direct to y'all. Ton of games this weekend, so let's just go ahead and get started with the first matchup. That's going to be the Houston Texans hosting the Cleveland Browns. So, Cleveland, had high expectations for them at the beginning of the year, considering they had a pretty great defense on their side, in addition to starting quarterback Deshaun Watson. However, that has not been the case this season, and they still managed to eke out a playoff berth. Part of the reason that they are so low, Watson has been in and out the lineup and eventually succumbed to a season-ending shoulder injury that he had to do surgery for. So Cleveland's been pretty much winning with four different starting quarterbacks, and the most recent being Joe Flacco, who wasn't even in the league this year, up at the beginning of the year, if you will. And they resigned him as soon as Watson went down and opted to end his season for shoulder surgery. Speaking of quarterbacks, the Texans not so great season last year, but they turned things around with their rookie quarterback C.J. Stroud, who they picked number 2 overall in the draft this season. Then they followed that up number 3 overall with picking Will Anderson out of Alabama, and so both of those selections have pretty much turned this team around dramatically. Texans have found themselves, clinching the playoff, not only clinching the playoff berth, but actually clinching the division for the first time since the 2019 season. So both teams have really just put in work, and they actually, ironically, played each other a few weeks ago. So in that game that they played, Flacco really showed out. He was already having a pretty good run leading up into that matchup, but him and Amari Cooper decided to just embellish the whole deal, and they went off. You know what I'm saying? So Cooper, he set us the Browns franchise record for single game receiving yards in that game, and it was just a massacre for that game. However, a couple things to note. The Texans had a lot of players that were injured in that game and did not play, including one C.J. Stroud, who is actually serving a second straight game in a concussion protocol at the time. So this game, he will be returning. He's been playing this. He's been back for like 2 games now to finish the year out, and he will be making his third straight appearance in this AFC wildcard game. Now, with Stroud, it's crazy to consider a rookie quarterback as like the X factor for a team, but that is what Stroud has been, especially in these last 2 games. I mentioned him serving the second straight game in the Browns matchup in concussion protocol. The previous game before that was his first game that he missed, and the Texans, they beat the Titans, but they barely beat the Titans. So when they rematched with the Titans, things were a little bit more different. You know what I'm saying? Score was a little bit higher for the Houston Texans. So I expect a similar result for the Texans going against the Browns. The Browns, they have a strong defense, very much so. But I think this Texans offense is just off the charts when Stroud is in there and fully healthy, along with quite a few other receivers such as Robert Woods, Nico Collins. Woods is he's supposed to be in this game as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and roll with the Texans for this one. Next game up is the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Miami Dolphins. And this one I'm going to call the expectations game. And so a lot of expectations set for both of these teams. Miami Dolphins, they had high expectations, even as going as far as saying that they're going to be in the Super Bowl starting at the beginning of the year. And they put on some good wins, and they showed that they were Super Bowl caliber, but they've also had some questionable losses. And so, me in particular, I'll get into the losses part. Let me get the Kansas City part. All right. So, for Kansas City, we all had the expectation that they would repeat as champions, and this is after they lost Tyreek Hill. This is after they lost their offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy. That's how much people had faith in Andy Reid. That's how much people had faith in Patrick Mahomes. And why wouldn't you have faith in Patrick Mahomes? Andy Reid too. But that has not been the case. They opened the season with a loss at home to the Detroit Lions, who we're going to be talking about a little bit later, and you know what I'm saying? Things just really has not been the same for them as previous seasons. And so much so different that their defense has been shockingly good this year. And I've always been critical of their defense. I never thought they were like, top notch or average. I always thought, they were below average for most of the year. And then like around the postseason time, they'll start to pick things up a little bit. But this year I have to say, like, they've done tremendous and I think on just not just on the pass rush with Chris Jones, but on all fronts and the linebacker space as well as in the secondary. As for the Dolphins go, this is gonna be a fun game because the Dolphins, with their number one offense, they're gonna have to face this top defense in the coldest of cold weathers. Yeah, it's predicted to be like as low as the last time I checked. It's supposed to be around 16 degrees with the wind chill at the time of kickoff. So this game isn't going to really be a high flying passing game, and for Kansas City, that's a good thing because though, you know what I'm saying, like overall, outside of Travis Kelce, the receiving group is not that great. I think they lead the league in drop passes. And if you don't believe me, just watch them or go back and watch some of the highlights. Those receivers have dropped some big passes. So Mahomes is probably not going to get his passing yardage off in this game. So they'll have to rely on their run game. Now I'll say Miami does have the better run game. They have the faster, running backs or whatever. But lately, Pacheco, whatever his first name is, Pacheco has been going off for the Chiefs the last couple of games down the stretch. And, while Miami has the faster running backs with Mostert and Kane, are they going to get you? How are they going to react to these conditions? You know what I'm saying? So, I definitely think the Chiefs have the one up on this one. They have the better defense, and they're used to playing in this type of weather in their home stadium. So I'm going to go ahead and give this game to the Chiefs. Next one shouldn't be too long. It's the Buffalo Bills hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Steelers, I commend them. You know what I'm saying? Because they were, they fought through a lot. And by a lot, I mean injuries and a whole bunch of controversy. Injuries at the quarterback position. Mason Rudolph is going to be starting this week in place of the injured Kenny Pickett. They had Trubisky starting, but he didn't really fare out too well for him. So they're going to go ahead and roll with Rudolph. The irony of saying that 2 weeks after December. But yeah, just the controversy as well that they've had, particularly with the wide receivers. You know what I'm saying? People showing the clips of George Pickens and Deontay Johnson looking like they're just being lapsadaisical on certain plays. And, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, not just football fans, but Steeler fans are going to have something to say about that because that's just the culture that, the Steelers are about. You know what I'm saying? They're tough-nosed and they see you lagging off or whatever, then they're gonna have something to say about that. So despite all that, they still made the postseason. Mike Tomlin, we love him. We cherish him as high as a Bill Belichick or whoever. And he made his 17th straight season without a losing record. However, speaking of controversy, the Buffalo Bills, they've had quite a few tiffs as well, couple of bumps and eyebrow-raising headlines for their season. So, the Stephon Diggs thing, there's a lot of chatter about, whether he's getting enough touches or whatever for this season. You know what I'm saying? And also, in addition to that, just overall, their offense was going through some things. And so, what the Bills did, they fired the offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey, in the middle of the year. And so, I think it was probably week 10, they let him go. Week 10, week 11, they let him go. Um, and so then they made Joe Brady. They gave him the, I guess, interim offensive coordinator position at the time. And so Brady, you might have heard of him. Former offensive coordinator for LSU when they won the national title with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. But since he has been brought on, the Bills have went 6-1. You know what I'm saying? So they really put on some huge wins. Even had a win over the Dallas Cowboys, blowout win, 31-10 over them. And so it's been a, you know what I'm saying, it's been a wonderful run for this team. They even, went and beat Miami and took the AFC East. So this team is hot right now. And so with all that going for them, you can expect them to just handle the Steelers. You know, you could just already expect them to handle the Steelers easily. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the Buffalo Bills with this one. Next game up, Dallas Cowboys hosting the Green Bay Packers. So for me, this Packers team, it looks like they found their quarterback of the future. Jordan Love, we all know his story. Drafted in the first round when a lot of people said, "Why would you do that instead of getting somebody for Aaron Rodgers?" And so I guess everybody was trying to hope that, hey, he can go the Aaron Rodgers route, get drafted, sit behind the legend, and when he comes out. When said legend is gone, and he comes out and just starts balling. So right now in year one of that plan, it seems like it's kind of working. You know what I'm saying? They made the postseason, and he's had an impressive first year. No complaints from the Packers so far. So right now, it seems like they solved that problem. As for the Dallas Cowboys, objectively speaking, they really kind of lived up to that whole you don't know what kind of team you're gonna get. And that's how I kind of observed them for over the years. Like you don't know if this team is gonna come out and blow out one of the best teams, get knocked out by one of the best teams. You don't know if they're gonna blow out a small team or if they're gonna have to fight a nail biter against a team fighting for the number one draft pick. You know what I'm saying? So they really kind of lived up to that because they have some big wins. They've also had some big losses too. So, um, but one thing I will say, since we're talking about quarterbacks, Dak Prescott, he's made strides this year as a passer, leading the league with in touchdown passes, single digit interceptions as well. And so I think that's been one of the bigger reasons for the Dallas Cowboys success this year. And I've mentioned, they had some crazy losses, some big losses, but they've also had some big wins. And they've also won at the right time. So while the other team the Eagles that was leading the division at one point, while they were kind of going through their thing and slipping down, the Cowboys just kind of stayed the course, kept winning games, and what I'm saying, now they're in the now they're at the top. Now they got the division crown, the NFC East, and they're hosting a playoff game this weekend. For me, with the Packers, I like them as a young team. They're inexperienced, but they seems like they can be unpredictable as well. You know what I'm saying? So, like I mentioned, the Cowboys, you don't know what they're going to get from them. You don't know what you're going to get from the Cowboys, and the Packers seem like one of those teams where like they're willing to test that theory out. You know what I'm saying? They seem like they can go punch Dallas in the mouth and make a little bit of noise, but in the end, I think the Cowboys are really just going to pull this out. You got Dak Prescott. He's having a tremendous year. CeeDee Lamb, number one receiver, true number one receiver, leading the league in receptions right now. And also, Brandon Cooks is kind of coming along a little bit, coming along a little latter part of the year. Kind of quiet early on, but lately he's been coming on. So I think combined with all that, they're really going to get this Packers team like they're going to really handle their business against the Packers team. So go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and pick the Cowboys on this one. Oh my God. Game of the week right here. The Los Angeles, hold on, the Detroit Lions hosting the Los Angeles Rams. So to me, it seems like the Rams have finally gotten over that Super Bowl hangover. So yeah, I remember when they first won that Super Bowl, it was a lot of talk about Aaron Donald retiring, Coach Sean McVay retiring, you know what I'm saying? And then they come out, Stafford gets hurt, you know what I'm saying? All this other stuff. And it's just, they missed the playoffs. And it was like, all right. Yeah, y'all have fun. Y'all did y'all thing. It's cool. We good. We'll move on. But, you know what I'm saying? This season, it looks like they finally just gotten over that Super Bowl hangover. They really kind of returned to form this year. And you know what? They might have had a chance to win the NFC West if it wasn't for San Francisco just being cold this year. You know what I'm saying? So I think they really kind of got to some form of themselves from that title season. They got a good young group around them right now that's able to that looks capable of definitely winning going forward. As for the Lions, they've come from the bottom. Like they literally have it. 15 years ago, this is like the team that went 0 and 16, winless the whole season. You know what I'm saying? And things have picked up since then, but things have kind of really just dropped back down for them. And really, in the last few years under Dan Campbell, it's been one of the joys of the league to watch them like kind of start a little start rough under him, but really just kind of build themselves up as far as like getting to where they are right now into being a formidable it's Thursday, forgive me, a formidable contender in the NFC. So I think I ain't even got to. Why am I getting my prediction? This game is too good to just get into a prediction right away. So with Matt Stafford coming back, it's going to be emotional on both sides. The fans are definitely going to feel it. His first time back in Detroit since being traded back in 2021 in an exchange for quarterback Jared Goff at the time. And so he's coming back in there. He's got all, his weapons. Of course, he got Aaron Donald on the defensive side. But he also has Cooper Cup with him. He has Puka Nakua. Excuse me if I messed that up. The rookie wide receiver who just set the record for single season receiving yards and receptions. And his team is going to be taking on a Lions team that has a tough running game, tough 1-2 punch with David Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs. Jameer Gibbs has been like kind of like that, Swiss Army, whatever they want to call it, versatile running back. He can run, but he can also, you know what I'm saying, catch out the backfield and all that stuff. But be that as it may, that group leads the league in rushing touchdowns right now. Now, the thing I have a hang up about with Detroit, because they're a good team, good solid team, but it's a couple things about them. So number one, they're funny style against playoff teams. Like they do not play their best. I think they might have one win against a playoff team. Actually, maybe two against a playoff team. And so we all know they beat Kansas City to open the year. You know what I'm saying? Perfect. So, but my thing about the Kansas City game is I don't think Kansas City was going to foresee, and this isn't a topic for Kansas City, but I don't think they could have foreseen how those changes were going to affect them at the time. And they didn't have Chris Jones out there to really make an impact on defense. So I'll count it as a technicality, but I'm not. It's hard to just really give them credit to that, knowing everything that we know uh, from the rest of the season. So yeah, that funny style against playoff teams. They almost beat the Cowboys if it wasn't for that penalty, but still, they could have beat the Cowboys. But yeah, also the secondary is kind of funny. Like, I think they're like in the bottom 10 of the league for secondary. And so when you're facing Cooper Cup and Puka, it's gonna be a real problem for that Detroit secondary. So I think both of these teams have weaknesses that the other team is gonna attack and is gonna balance out somehow. However, considering that Detroit is kind of flimsy against like legit playoff teams or just teams over 500, I'm just going to go ahead and roll with the Rams on this one and have them like in a quote unquote upset over the Detroit Lions. So, final game of Wild Card Weekend, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. And I should be long winded on this, but there's a whole bunch of things I'm concerned about. So let me start off with the Eagles. They started off great, but things just kind of spiraled down towards the end of the year. Another team with high expectations. They were expected to make a return to the Super Bowl or make a deep playoff run. And, they won their games. You know what I'm saying? They made their usual, like, pickups. They signed, what's the Colts linebacker? Uh, why I forget his name. I wrote about him earlier. But they signed him. When the Colts cut him, they signed him and during the season. But before that, I think they acquired Kevin Byard from the Titans. They signed Julio Jones, so that they made their whole they made their usual pickups of big names and all that. But things just did not turn out well for them. You know what I'm saying? And one of the main things that people will point out is that you know they changed defense. They changed the defensive coordinator duties in the middle of the year, thinking that this might help things. Did not do that at all. At all. These guys went 1-5 or 1-6 or whatever to finish the year off. So they during that run they completely fell out of the top two spots and landed at number 5. And, they just handed the division over to the Dallas Cowboys. So now they're going to be on the road facing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are hosting their second straight playoff game, who are hosting the playoff game for the second straight year. Uh, Surprisingly, with the help of Baker Mayfield under center. So yeah, last year they hosted a playoff game. Tom Brady's last game in the NFL uniform. Uh, this year they picked up Baker Mayfield, who was bouncing around from team to team last season, but he's made some pretty good strides this year. A little bit more stable. They've had their ups and downs in that AFC South, in that NFC South. They've had some ups and downs within that division, trying to compete with the Saints mostly, but they've maintained and they were able to pull out a win for the division. Now they got a playoff game this week. So on paper, you would probably think like, man, the Eagles, they're coming in here. They should be able to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but nah. Like it's for me personally, it's too many questions on defense right now for the Philadelphia Eagles. And a lot of things about a lot of success about the playoffs is what you can do like going into the playoffs for the most part. Like, there's teams that, what I'm saying, they've been great all year, but if they what I'm saying, kind of trip up at the end of the year. They get into the postseason, they get bounced out. You know what I'm saying? So um, I think there's too many questions on defense right now for the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts, he's been having too many turnovers just overall this season. You know what I'm saying? Not within the last month, but just this season. So that's definitely going to be an issue if he continues that. And I don't know if it's something that I don't know if they can just turn off their issues going into this game against the Buccaneers. So I'm going to have to go with the Buccaneers. Baker's playing good. Mike Evans, how could I not mention him? He's been a true star this season. His 10th straight year with making 1,000 yards, 1,000 receiving yards. So definitely taking the Buccaneers in this game. So that's all I got for y'all, man. Those are my picks. I got the Texans. Let me scroll up. Yeah, I got the Texans, Chiefs, Buffalo, Cowboys. Got the Rams winning, and I also got the Buccaneers winning. So, comment who you think gonna win. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. If you're watching this on Facebook, go to my page, facebook.com/BrandonBlog. I'm Brandon Simmons for BrandonSimmons.biz. Holla black.